We're going to start out with a scripture reading. Do we have that up on the, there we go. Out of Numbers 13:17 through 25. And bear with me, I'm going to butcher some of these names, I promise. Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan and said to them, "Go up into the Negev and go up into the hill country and see what the land is, and whether the people who dwell in it are strong or weak, whether they are few or many, and whether the land that they dwell in is good or bad, and whether the cities that they dwell in are camps or strongholds, and whether the land is rich or poor, and whether there are trees in it or not. Be of good courage and bring some of the fruit of the land." Now the time was the season of the first ripe grapes. So they went up and spied out the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rehob, near Labo Hamath. They went up into the Negev and came to Hebron, Ahiman, Seshai, and Talmai. The descendants of Anak were there. Hebron was built 7 years before Zon in Egypt. And they came to the valley of Eshcol and cut down from there a branch with a single cluster of grapes, and they carried it on a pole between two of them. They also brought some pomegranates and figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster that the people of Israel cut down from there. At the end of 40 days, they returned from spying out the land.
Well, good morning and welcome to the service this morning. It's going to be about our time in Nigeria. The four of us and a couple others traveled to Nigeria a couple weeks ago, and we were looking into a mission organization that our church supports. It's called the Anabaptist Peace Center. And if you guys know Nehemiah Chigoji, or better known Nemi, he's been here and spoke a couple times. He is the person behind the Anabaptist Peace Center and what we went to explore. And so this is a presentation of what we saw there, how God's working, the different aspects of the mission there, and kind of how we can better partner as a church with the Anabaptist Peace Center, their needs and the vision there. So.
Good morning. The scripture has already been read, but I had a few other verses that I had picked out. Numbers 13:1 and 2, the Lord said to Moses, send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. From each ancestral tribe, send one of its leaders. So I'm not going to read all the tribes, but there's 12 listed, but did you guys know that there's 13 tribes actually? There's 12 listed, but the tribe of Levi is not listed there, because the Levites weren't required to fight in the battles. Anyway, verse 6 says, from the tribe of Judah, Caleb, son of Jephunneh. That's part of the reason I'm not going to read all of it, because I can't. But anyway, Caleb, which we have a Caleb in the team. So verse 8 says, from the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, son of Nun. Joshua is not listed, but his name was Hoshea. But in verse 16 it says, these are the names of the men Moses sent to explore the land. Moses gave Hoshea, son of Nun, the name Joshua. So for all practical purposes, the rest of us are Joshua's. And I was going to go into a little bit of what they were supposed to look for. What are the people like? What is the land like? And what kind of land is it? I think Marshall's going to talk a little more of that when he talks about the farm. There's at least 3 or 4 different baskets of Nimi's ministry, which I hope you get a picture of by the time we're all done talking. but the farm is one of them. What kind of land it is, what kind of people they are, what kind of towns do they live in, and the scripture says, are they walled? But the walls, we weren't in any walled cities, but the walls, they build walls around their farm and around the mission center because of the way their culture is. So there is some walls that are being built. And during the time we were there, the neighboring ministry, beside the Anabaptist Peace Center, the neighboring ministry found out there's some Yoders in our group. They wanted to meet them. So one evening we were invited over to their house for supper. And they found out we're from Iowa, and they said, have you ever heard of Sharon Center? I said, yeah, I grew up 2 miles from there. And Caleb said he went to church at the Sharon Center United Methodist Church. This guy, Zach Yoder, his roots are from Sharon Center. So we traveled halfway around the world and met some Yoders from Sharon Center. Which I'm guessing there's people in this room that don't know where Sharon Center, Iowa is. So that was kind of a big surprise for us. Anyway, they're Zach and Christy Yoder. They're with Wycliffe translators, and they're translating the Bible. The official language of Nigeria is English, but there's 500 other languages in the country, so there's plenty of need for translation. And then the last thing I want to mention is one of the first days we were there at the compound, I met a man that was jittery and shaking, so I went and talked to him and found out he has Parkinson's. So we kind of made a bond there. I sat with him during the rest of the church services, and when he started shaking, I'd hold his hand. Thank you.
As PR, as he said, we were the people that went into the land. We weren't really spies, but we were checking it out. So I'm here to talk about a few aspects of Nemi's ministry. In an overall view, the ministry is to help widows and pastors, specifically widows that their husbands were pastors and were murdered for their faith. And they're left with no means of supporting themselves. And so that's kind of where Nemi's ministry started. And then there's different aspects of his ministry as it's grown. And one of those is the farm. And so, Luke, if you want to pull up the first PowerPoint. This is the farm. And to note, to kind of keep this in your head, the farm is far away from the actual Anabaptist Peace Center. So it's about 4 hours by vehicle from the Anabaptist Peace Center. And so you're kind of like, well, why is it so far away from where they're located? Well, part of that is because this is where Nemi's tribal people are from, and this is where he had land. And so they're using the land that he has acquired from family ties, which happens to be 4 hours away from the actual Anabaptist Peace Center. And so we got to visit the farm and kind of learn what's going on there. Oh, there we go. So the first thing that you'll notice when you get on the farm, it's about 60 acres in this one section. There's another farm a little bit further down the road that had the corn at it that is about 29 acres. But the first thing you'll notice is there's a wall that's a little more than waist high that's around the entire perimeter. And he was talking about building this wall and how important it was, and I thought, what a waste of time. And as he began to explain it, I understood why the wall was needed. There's a group of people, the area is very tribal, and so there's a group of people called the Fulani people, and they are nomadic herdsmen, and they have groups of cattle. I mean, you'll see them grazing all over the place, just a few guys and maybe 50, 75 head of cattle, and they wander from place to place. They don't really have a home. They have done this for years and years, and they just travel to the places their tribe has always grazed. And if your farm happens to be on a place that they've always grazed, they will just graze your farm. And so you say, well, why don't they just stop these people? Well, sometimes they're armed and cause fights, and people get hurt and killed. And so a lot of times they just let them roll through and do what they do. And last year, the Anabaptist Peace Center farm lost a majority of their crop to the Fulani people coming through and grazing their land. And so it was pretty important that they put up a wall around here to protect their crops. You can see that it's just high enough right now to keep cattle out. You'd have to have a pretty athletic cow to jump that, I think. But they want to get it a little bit higher so that they can protect some of their goods that they're storing there. You can see that there's a caretaker's house that is right now under construction. This is for a couple purposes. The purpose of the caretaker's house is so that somebody that's there taking care of the farm has a place to stay, but also it's a level of security. Right now, the tractor can't be stored at the farm because no one lives there, and they're afraid. They are very protective of that tractor, and they want to take care of it, and they don't want anybody to take it. So hopefully with the finishing of this caretaker's house, it'll give a level of security that they can then keep the tractor at the farm and be able to use that more often at the farm. Right now, they use it for preparing the land, but when it's 4 hours by road, that's a lot to do. So this lady here is actually the person that is in charge of the farm. Her name is Mata, and she is very knowledgeable in what she does. She started explaining to us what all they grow, and here you can see some of the ladies planting beans, and you can see that they've got like a machete, and then they just scoop it into the ground and make a little slot and throw 2 beans in there and move on to the next. They are a lot faster. One of the ladies in our group tried to do it and was not near as efficient as these ladies. But they grow cassava, which is like a root vegetable, corn, beans, palm trees, and even sweet potatoes. And a lot of this is manual labor as far as harvesting and stuff, and so it takes a lot of people, a lot of time to do this. The tractor helps, but that's really, they don't have any mechanized way of planting, so all of this is done by hand right now. So the tractor gets the ground ready, but it's a lot of work as of now. So here's, oh, it's not going for me, Luke. Clicker to the next one. Fields, you can go to the next one. Here is some young people carrying water to the sprayers. Now you're like, that'd take a lot of people to keep up with a Hagee or 120-foot boom. Well, you'll see in one of the next slides. So this is some of the plants that they're growing. They don't have Hagees. They have people that hand spray everything. But the point of all of this, this is some of the cassava we were trying out. He just dug it out of the ground, and it's like a really fibrous potato, kind of. It's in a lot of soup, and they mash it up and make kind of a meal out of it. It's pretty bland. This is Nemi's brother Ayuba, and he is very instrumental in the whole operation of the Peace Center and the farm. He's in on a lot of day-to-day activities. This guy gives a lot of time, because Nemi is a pastor in California, so he's not in Nigeria for extended periods of time. So Ayuba is really the go-to guy. He is very trustworthy, he's noble, and he is very, very loyal. The respect that Nemi has because he's an older brother, Ayuba is so loyal to him, and everything that Nemi does and Nemi asks of him, he does. He's quite the guy, and I really connected with Ayuba because he's kind of in on the day-to-day farm activities and what's going on there, and we were actually able to share some of the practices that they're doing and what we're doing, and trade back and forth and learn a little bit about different kinds of pesticides and herbicides and what's going on there. We talked a little bit about weed resistance, and I told them kind of, for you farmers, about water hemp, because they do spray glyphosate there, and I said, this has become a major problem for us, so when you're using these chemicals, use them as labeled. You farmers know what I mean by that. But Ayuba is very instrumental in all of the operations there. So this is a palm tree, and this is kind of the long-term goal of the farm. Right now they're growing these root vegetables like cassava, and they're growing rice in the wetter part of the farm, and they're growing sweet potatoes and the beans. But they have planted these palm trees as kind of the long-term goal of what they're going to do at the farm. They're still going to grow the root vegetables, but the palm trees really are a lot less maintenance. You can sell the palm seeds for oil, butter, lotions, all sorts of things are made from palm seed. The palm oil is used in cooking everywhere, and so and it's a well paying product that they can produce, but it's going to take time for these trees to grow and be able to produce the palm seed. So they've planted these palm trees in rows across the farm, and they're growing plants in between all of these rows of palm trees. And the idea is that even after the palm trees grow up, that there's still enough light in between the rows that they can grow some of these root vegetables. And the vegetables that they're producing right now are two things for the Peace Center. One, it goes for food to help feed the widows and the retired pastors program. And then the second thing that it is income. And last year, because their crop was completely destroyed, or pretty much destroyed, they were only able to feed the widows and pastors. They were not able to sell anything. And so they're hoping that this year that they will have enough that they can sell at least half of the crop to generate some income for the center. So this is kind of a self-sustaining idea of generating revenue for the center, also giving people an opportunity to work, and providing food for people locally that's affordable. And so it's doing several things in the community that is uplifting to not only the Peace Center, but those that maybe don't know what the Peace Center is. They can buy affordable food. Nemi says people get ripped off a lot and charge whatever they want sometimes, and depending on what time of year it is, you just have to buy it. And so he wants people to be able to come and get affordable food while still making a profit. And these guys, this is their 120-foot boom Hagee. These three guys, they had backpack sprayers, and they walked around, and the people would bring water to their barrels, and they'd fill out of the barrel and walk around and spray. So it was pretty amazing seeing how they farm and how the similarities and the differences. This is the tractor, and this was actually located at the Peace Center right now. For safety reasons, there's a rototiller right there in front of it that they have. They also have like a disc that they can pull, but the soil is pretty sandy and rocky. Where they have the corn, which we weren't able to visit, but they said it's a heavier clay, and they can use the tractor there to prepare the ground for planting. And when they plant corn, they dig their heel into the ground like that, and then they drop a couple seeds and then rake over with their foot and move on to the next. And so having soil that's already worked is a pretty big deal, that you don't have to go out there with a hoe first and break it all up so that you can dig your heel into the ground and plant. So that's kind of what we saw with the farm. Yeah, I can try.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the retired pastors program. There's going to be some pictures. I'm not going to talk about each individual picture, but it'll just kind of give you an idea of the day. We did get to experience the retired pastors all being there for the day. They have the pastors come once about every month, and if they're all there, there's about 88 of them, I think is what Nemi said, but I don't think they all necessarily come every time, but the majority of them were there. So it was cool to see them all. So the reason, or let me first say, when they come to the center for the program day, they're each given a little bit of a stipend to help cover the cost of their travel. A lot of them use public transportation. Some of them come from quite a ways away. They're also given some food. So like what Marshall was saying from the farm, some of the rice, the corn, beans, they'll get to take home to have for them for the month. And also they're served a hot meal after the church service. So I want to talk a little bit about the reason that there's a need for a retired pastors program in the first place is because in Nigeria, the older generation of pastors didn't have any kind of retirement plan. There was nothing set up structurally for them so that when they were too old to preach anymore, too old to lead their church, for them to have a place to live or any money or anything. And so when they get to that point where they physically can't lead their church anymore, they're kind of kicked out. They don't have anywhere to go, no money. And so Nemi saw this and saw the need for help. And so that's what he provides them. During the church service, it was just a pretty typical service, some worship music, and a couple of the Peace Center pastors gave the message. And then they also had some of the retired guys give a little bit of their testimony. And so that was really cool to hear their testimony. I want to talk about the one guy specifically gave an example of what it felt like to just be kind of kicked to the curb. As he said, he felt like a prostitute. He gave all his time and was just used, and then when they didn't need him anymore, out you go. And he was left with nothing. And so it's incredible to see what the Anabaptist Peace Center means to each of these guys. They're all so grateful. You can see it on their faces, their smiles, the handshakes, the fact that they all come from who knows how far away. They know what the center means to them, and I think for me that was really meaningful to see, so that I know, hey, I need to I need to help support this Peace Center.
Let's see here. We want to get to the next. That's the pastors that were there. And we will go to the widows next. So I want to talk about the widows, and we already talked about why there are widows. So I want to talk about the widow program and how it goes together. So there are 47 widows in the program now, and there are 318 that have graduated. And so the program works like this. It's for about 6 months. Oh, well, next slide. That is a picture of the people that were there for the Widow's Day. There were 3 days, the Pastor's Day, the Widow Day, and then another day for the community. So this was there's more than widows in the picture because there are people from the U.S. in the picture. So it was all the people that were there that particular day. So the widows program is for 6 months. So then they graduate at the end of the 6 months, and there's another set of widows. So they meet 5 days a week from 8 to 2:30 in the afternoon. They have Bible study first, and then skill training. And the skill training is, thank you, is 3 things: sewing, cooking, and shoemaking. So the 47 widows are divided somehow between the 3 different kinds of skills. So this is Happy, and she is the instructor for the sewing group. And if you look very carefully on the chair, the brown chair behind her, in the middle or the kind of that side of the picture, you will see some fabric looks like this. So what happened to me was that we were sitting under the tree the first day, and they came and they measured me. And they measured the ladies. So Happy measured the ladies, and the next, I want to show the sewing room. There. So the sewing room was like this, and that's the entire size of the sewing room that they have. The table with the yellow on it is the cutting table. That is the size of the table. And I just have a lot of trouble. When I had trouble taking a picture of the room because it was so small and so full of sewing machines. So you can kind of see that that is a small space, and it seems to me they kind of grew out of the space. So this is the guy that came and measured me, and when at the end, actually in the back of my shirt, you know, it says Peace Center. It's got a little label on it. It doesn't say made in China. It just says Peace Center. So I was so excited and happy about that. And where did the apron? So they also gave each one of us an apron for our wives. Hold it up. And you can see the name right here in the middle. So that was kind of wonderful. A total surprise in the program. So we will try the next slide. So this is the cooking class. Remember that there were 3 different kinds of classes, and so this is the cooking class. And she was showing us how to make the, what they call them? Puff puffs. Sorry about that. So she was showing how to do that, and was making the flour and sifting the flour. Next one is Nimi actually cooking some of them. So Nimi made some, and that's how it went together. So there was those 3 classes, plus the other class was shoemaking. And shoemaking, there's no picture of that one, but shoemaking doesn't mean like the shoes I have, more like sandals is what it looked like. Next one. So the widows get together monthly, and at their meeting they have lunch, and this is serving lunch to the ladies. So they made the lunch. We actually had some of the lunch also. So the other thing that they get, which is on the next slide, is that they get a stipend. And so the stipend is like something like $5 is what it is. But they keep records very carefully, and they do it one at a time. So this was getting the stipend. Next slide. And the bags in the back there are the food that they get. And the food comes from the farm. And it turns out to be flour and rice and oil. Flour, rice, and oil. So those are the things that they get once a month. So moving on to the next slide. This here was inside the gate next to the tent where the worship service is, and it had a bunch of goats in it. So I had to ask, now what is the goats for? You know, it didn't seem that they would worship the goats, or I mean the goats would worship in church or something, whatever, never mind. The answer was simple, is when they graduate, some of the ladies get a goat. So they keep track of the goats and they feed the goats from inside the fence. Next. So the next piece of the puzzle was the clinic. The clinic is not necessarily part of the widows program. The widows do participate in it, but the clinic was for 3 days while we were there. Once for the widows, once for the pastors, and then once for people in the area. There are so many people that wanted to come to the clinic that they had to turn a number of them away. So that's how they had to organize so that they had the right number of people show up. Because mid-morning is when they showed up, and they were finished mid-afternoon. So just to kind of give a picture of how the clinic works, the clinic is about 6 steps in the clinic. And the first step was they entered into the computer, and the next step was blood pressure. And then one of the other steps is this guy looked at some things on his paper and wrote something on a piece of paper. And then at the end, there was a pharmacy, pills that were given out. At the bottom there is a blood draw, and the other station was counseling, some kind of counseling. So this happens occasionally. I asked how often, and the answer was whenever the money is available, because it costs about $1,000 a day to do that, so it was 3 days. That's the end. Next.
You can throw the next section of slides up there. These are just experiences that we had. So anyone from our group can talk about each slide, but we'll just kind of run through. We thought it'd be cool to share some of like the cultural things. This is the Anabaptist Peace Center current facility. And the tent there on the right-hand side, that is what our Bible school 2 or 3 years ago raised money for, to help buy these tents for worship. They are being used, they're set up like that permanently. I mean, like, that's where they go to church every week. And they have wings out, and they when it's raining, it keeps them dry. And let me tell you, just because it's a tent doesn't mean you can't worship, because they worshiped. The left-hand side is where they had been meeting. It was like a small hallway, and they just crammed everyone in there. Lauren, do you want to talk about this next slide?
Yes, I do. Yes. So the next one is, this is the wall hanging that came from the church here. So that was given to them there. And the picture that I'm holding up is a sewing group here with the piece that was sent over from the last visit. Then at the end of before we left, they sent this back to this church. So it's the Widows and Retired Pastors Anabaptist Peace Center, Nigeria. So they sent this back. It's plastic, laser printed.
You can go to the next slide. These next couple slides are just things that we saw. You can see in that taxi, someone's carrying a bunch of baby chicks. Here's roadside stands, shops, places. So it's crazy. You think, well, they're poor, they don't have technology. You can go to almost any place and pay electronically. There's little things that say POS, and we had to ask what that was for clarification. And it means point of sale. So you can go there and you can pay electronically for anything that you're buying. So it was pretty incredible. Places like this, and you can pay electronically. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, this is just some more of those types of things. Keep going. This is a fruit stand. The markets were closed that day, but they plant corn right up to the road. So road ditches are fair game. If there's a place to plant it, they go ahead and do it. So
that piece that was in the picture before, this here is a bump in the road, and you can see. And you can see what was ahead of us in the bump in the road. So in the other picture, the stormwater system in that country is different than ours. It's a trench on the side of the road. So the trench was there and the corn was next. So I just wanted to point that up. I thought that's a strange way of doing the stormwater, but it works because I can see the water go.
yeah, in the slide before, there was a load of cattle being hauled to market, I think, in the back of a pickup, which you don't see very often around here. And this is some more people selling things alongside the road. You can go to the next one. More shops. Anywhere you can set up to sell something, somebody's doing it. Cattle in the road, just normal day experiences. And this is what we ate. I did get to eat some of this, so it's called egusi, and it's either corn or cassava. The corn is ground up into kind of like and put into a dough, and then you take that little bit of dough, and then you're given I don't even know what was in mine, honestly. It was like chicken, it had bones in it, and some sort of green stuff, vegetables, and you take the piece of corn or cassava dough and you kind of make a chip type thing out of it, and you dip it in there and you scoop it into your mouth. And that's completely normal. I felt kind of like a caveman eating my food, but they don't think anything of it.
Most of the restaurants had a wash basin.
Oh yeah, all the restaurants would have a wash basin at the table, so you could wash your hands before you dipped your hand in the cassava or corn dough to eat your food. So, yeah, I think it is, and it's spicy, Roy. It's I tried some of the heat, and it was about all my Amish mouth could do. But I don't know. I'm not much for heat. We tried to stay away from that as much as we could. The most interesting thing I ate was it was the cassava plant skin, which is kind of like potato skins. They grind it all up, and they make it into a paste. Add water, and they make it into a paste, and I don't know, if some sort of gelatin, I guess, because it was like a Jell-O consistency, and then it was in a tube. It kind of looked like a hot dog, and it was pretty interesting, bland. But that was just some of our experiences. Do you guys have anything else you want to share about that? No.
I was very timid. I always selected something that wasn't spicy because I was afraid.
Okay, this is kind of our last slide section to kind of talk about where the Peace Center is at right now, what's going on to continue the Peace Center, and what our church can do to help out. So right now, the Peace Center is at the place where you saw the tent, and that's where they're worshiping. It's a pretty small area, but they are building a new site for the new Peace Center. And so we had visited this site, and I wanted to tell you the story of how they acquired the land, because it means a lot to how much Nemi cares about this ministry and how much he has given out of his personal life for this ministry and how he wants to see it continued. Nemi got out of Africa by playing soccer in Europe. He was a professional soccer player for several years in Europe. And that's how he got to the United States. And that's how he gained some wealth. And while he was in his soccer playing days, he bought a piece of land that he thought he would retire on. And time went on, and he became a pastor, and he'll tell you he did not want to be a pastor, but he felt like God was calling him to. And he still had this land. And eventually, it became the construction site of the Anabaptist Peace Center. Nemi gave up his retirement plan, idea of building a house, and gave it to the Peace Center so that they could have a place that was adequate for their needs. They were actually able, through another member of their church or their organization, to acquire land right beside it and extend the plot. So now they have a pretty good sized chunk of ground that they are constructing the new Anabaptist Peace Center at right now. And they first turned to shovel maybe a year and a half ago, I think. So this is the construction site as it stands today. They were finishing the wall around it right now, and in the center, the arrows are pointing towards the center. That is their new worship hall. And the building that's constructed right out towards the wall is the guard tower, which right now is going to be used for offices and meeting rooms, because they don't really have a place to do that kind of thing. Another piece of this puzzle is the place that they're at right now, they're renting. And rent has gone up about 600% since they started renting, because they keep making improvements to the place, and the landlord thinks he's entitled to more money. Their rent is due in May, and so they're hoping to be out of there by April and be at this new site. So they're in construction right now in hopes to be moved to the new site so they don't have to pay rent again, which is about $8,000, right? Yeah. So that's kind of what they're working towards right now. You can go to the next slide. So this is their church building, or the worship hall that they're constructing. I think they're hoping that it'll hold about 1,000 people. And that's going to be used for lots of different things. Right now, there's not a roof on it. There's no seating or anything, but they are in the process of that. Keep going to the next slide. This is a year ago, so you can see that they had just started building the wall, but they had to move a lot of dirt, and it's incredible. I've seen projects in third world countries, and I've never seen anything progress at this pace. And it was a testament to who they have in charge and the vision that they have and just how well it's being handled. So I was very impressed having seen a lot of construction sites that you go back 10 years later and it looks the same. They're doing incredible work here. So this is kind of during the process of building. You can see the guard tower being built and then the worship center being built. You keep going to the next slide. This is the wall that they're building around for safety purposes so that no one steals their stuff. You go to the next slide. This was actually the last day we were there. They were unveiling signs that they had made for the Anabaptist Peace Center, and they were doing a dedication of the center. And so this is kind of the process. This is Pastor Reverend Chuga. He's actually a college professor, and he's going to be partnered with the ministry at the new facility and be in charge of some of the pastoral care and helping the pastors. So here is the sign unveiled and kind of what it looks like. You can go to the next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about each one of these things. There's plaques that they had put up, and I want you to understand that not everything that has a plaque has been built yet. So there's a lot of vision here, but not everything's been constructed. They're trying to get things ready so that they can move in May, but they've got a lot of work to do. So these are just people that have donated money, time, prayer to specific buildings that are there on the site. So
this one is for Nancy. Nancy lives in California and has been with NIMI in the church in California for a very long time. And so this is in honor of her and her help in the Anabaptist Peace Center.
You can go to the next one. The Kaufman Sanctuary. This is to the Kaufman Mennonite Church in Pennsylvania. And you can see there's nothing behind the plaque, but that is where the sanctuary or area for conferences and things can be held in that area. So, as you know, that we have been partnered with NEMI for a while, and they are naming their worship hall after us. And so that was a pretty incredible thing to see, as a plaque with Lower Deer Creek on it and this huge building that is being constructed. And out of gratitude, thanks, and support that you guys and us as a church have all been there for, they're dedicating this to us and one other member from his church at home that has donated too. So I thought that was really cool that Lower Deer Creek is going to have their name stamped on their worship hall. And this is the other individual. No, this is the clinic, sorry. So this is another vision thing of NEMI's, is to have a clinic on site that has a pharmacy that runs 24 hours and people can come to and get help when they need it. This is for the community. This is for people at the Peace Center, but it's for anyone to walk in the door. And that's to help people in the community, but also, spread the news of what the Peace Center is doing. And then another aspect of that is it's going to generate some revenue. And so that's what this plaque was for. You can go to the next slide. And this is the other individual who also donated to the worship hall, and his name is on it as well. You can go to the next slide. Robert Johnson, he is the one that donated to get the extra plot of land. And so there's going to be a guest house on there that people like us, when we go to visit, will be able to stay at. Or if they have people maybe staying there for an extended period of time doing ministry there, they can stay in this guest house and just have a place to stay. And I think that will be beneficial both for the ministry of them showing it to people like us and getting the word out, but then also people being able to come and spend time there in partnership with them. So this is the sanctuary of the worship hall. You can see there's going to be stadium seating that goes up on the walls. There's the front, and then there'll be another stadium seating going that way, and then a stadium seating going towards the back. And then underneath that stadium seating is where they're going to have sewing rooms and the skill acquisition rooms of shoemaking and cooking, and then also a shop that they can sell this material that they're making for when us uncooked Nigerians, as Nemi called us, come to visit. So the vision. Nemi's going to talk a little bit here in this next clip about the vision that he has for the clinic.
So take this in context. This is captured with Nemi walking and showing different parts of where the construction site was. The rain was on the way. We had to hurry and do it. This is unrehearsed. This is Nemi himself. So play the next slide.
How can this ministry sustain itself? The Western world churches are shrinking, especially in terms of new believers, and we don't have the PR's generation, the Lawrence generation, that have a big heart for missions and international ministries. So I think the future of us in Africa here, if some of you heard clearly from Christy, my whole vision for this ministry is for me as a Nigerian to be run by Nigerians, and for us to be able to sustain the ministry together.
So if you didn't catch it, Nemi wants this ministry to be Nigerians helping Nigerians. And it says a lot in that community for them to be able to help one another versus maybe you or I coming and giving handouts or whatever it is. But to really be self-sustaining, he wants it to be Nigerians helping Nigerians. But they're not to that point yet. They still need a lot of help to get to where they're going. You can go to the next slide. This is just kind of a fun video. I'm pretty sure they got the leaf springs maxed out on that pickup. The big truck, I don't know why, unloaded the block way far away from where they were using it, so these guys loaded it up and hauled it a little closer. So that's kind of the construction site and what's going on there. But what does that mean for us as a church? To wrap this up, Nemi still needs a lot of help. The Peace Center has a long ways to go. They still need our support. They still need our prayers. They still need our financial support. But what's important in all of this is that we tell people about what's going on in Nigeria. How do we make disciples? These people are going into their community with the Anabaptist Peace Center. If you don't understand the context, there's a lot of persecution between Muslims and Christians. Some of it's tribal, some of it's just religion. But a few years back, there was a lot of riots. Places were burned, people were killed. A lot of Muslims killing Christians, and then Christians retaliating. There's a mentality of Christianity there too that wants to retaliate against the persecution. And Nemi is saying, no, we cannot do that. Christ doesn't call us to fight back. And so this idea of Anabaptist and peace in Nigeria is very close to home because people are getting killed. And that's what started this for Nemi, is the peace. That's why he's so drawn to the Anabaptist part as we think about our heritage. But we're called to make disciples too. These people are going out in their community and promoting peace and not retaliating against persecution in other churches. How do we as a church help them out? Well, one way you can help out is Nemi's going to be here on November 2nd. And he's going to preach, and he's going to talk, and then there's going to be also a time that weekend that you can come in the evening and learn more about Nemi and what he's doing. Invite anyone that you know that may have a little interest or just any idea of maybe they'd like to help and support in some way. And we're working on a way for you to be able to sign up for giving, like a monthly subscription type of thing, because a lot of their costs that they incur are a month-by-month thing of supporting the widows program, of the pastors program, and that eats up running the clinic. That eats up a lot of expense that they can't spend then on growing the farm, doing the construction site, and doing the things that they need to do to get things in order so that they can have Nigerians helping Nigerians. And so what I'm asking for you as a church is that if you know anyone that might remotely be interested, invite them to church on that Sunday and have them see what Nemi has to say. Get the word out there so that we can continue to support this ministry and what's going on in Nigeria and how God's been working through the lives of people there. Why don't we close in prayer? God, I thank you for today, and I thank you for this ministry that Nemi has in Nigeria and what's going on there in the hearts and the lives of people. God, I just pray that our church can help support that your name is going to be glorified above all names, that we can take your message of the good news to the ends of the earth, that we can promote peace in Nigeria. God, I just pray that your will be done in all of this. We've seen your provision thus far. We trust in you that you're doing your will there. God, I just pray a blessing over this ministry and in the hearts of the people here that we can join in support of Nemi and what he's doing in Nigeria. In Jesus' name, amen.